Let's go back to the breaking news from earlier this hour. The Israeli government has approved that hostage deal we have been talking about all day. The deal secures the release of 50 women and children being held by Hamas right now in exchange for a 4-day pause in fighting and 150 Palestinian prisoners being held in Israel right now being released. This vote begins a 24-hour period during which this time families of the victims of Israeli hostages can appeal to the Israeli Supreme Court to object to the deal. Let's bring in back with us NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin from Tel Aviv. Erin, earlier we were with you and lights and stuff were falling. Before we get into this, I do want to just make sure you and your team are okay. We appreciate you being here. Talk to us about what we know right now. I am seeing there's new statements coming out from Hamas where they are saying that this has been agreed to. They're describing it as something that happened after a number of difficult days and negotiations, thanking Qatar and others for their involvement here. Walk us through what we know right now. And in terms of this 24-hour period, is there a chance that we could see families take this to the Supreme Court to try to stop it, or do we think this will move ahead?
Well, that is the big question right now, Allison, especially when you consider that the statement that the Israeli government just released, let me read it to you. The statement from the government of Israel is obligated to return home all of the hostages. Tonight, the government has approved the outline of the first stage of achieving this goal, according to which at least 50 hostages, women and children, will be released over 4 days, during which a pause in the fighting will be upheld. The release of every additional 10 hostages will result in 1 additional day in the pause. The government of Israel, the IDF, and security services will continue the war in order to return home all of the hostages, complete the elimination of Hamas, and ensure that there will be no new threat to the state of Israel from Gaza. Now, absent from this latest statement from the government of Israel is any mention of the 150 Palestinian prisoners, women and children, that we were told by a senior Israeli official in the build-up to this vote was part of the deal. If that still is in fact the case, as we get more information from the Israeli government, then yes, there will be that 24-hour pause, allowing for the victims of those prisoners under Israeli law to challenge this agreement with the Israeli Supreme Court. Although in the past, what has happened on these prison and hostage exchanges, that the Supreme Court has deferred to the government, saying that this is primarily a political decision. So tonight, in light of this agreement, there, of course, is new hope for the families of the hostages. Earlier today, I was messaging with Thomas Hand. He is a single father of 9-year-old Emily Hand. The night of October 7th, Emily was staying over at a friend's house. That morning, Hamas militants stormed their kibbutz, kidnapping Emily. But originally, Thomas was told that she was dead. He found out she was alive and a hostage weeks, almost a month after her kidnapping. And now he messaged me today that he has renewed hope. So far, so good is what he texted. But the fact is, he doesn't know, because it's possible that Emily perhaps might not have survived all of this. There has been no proof of life for her, as is there has been no proof of life for so many of the families. And that is why there has been this extreme pressure placed by the families of the hostages, by the Israeli public, growing pressure on the government to reach a deal like the one they just reached. Now, we are waiting for the government of Qatar, a key intermediary, to come forward and announcing this deal, and perhaps then we will get more information in terms of those very, very important specifics. Ellison?
Erin, I'll read to you a little more of the statement that Hamas has released on one of their Telegram channels. They are saying that as of this agreement, it includes the release of 50 women and children that is of, they describe it as of the occupation detainees under the age of 19, meaning presumably the hostages they have under the age of 19, in exchange for the release of 150 women and children of our people from Again, these are their words, the occupation prisons under the age of 19 years, all according to seniority. When we are waiting for these details, you mentioned Qatari officials, Egyptian officials being involved in this. Is that where we think we will get most of the nuts and bolts confirmed? Is there political pressure in any way for Israel or Netanyahu to withhold information on who exactly these Palestinian prisoners are being released? Is there any sort of thing you have heard prior to this that would suggest why maybe that was left out of their statement tonight? Or do you think it is just a message to the Israeli people who so desperately want to know about what happens for their people who are being held hostage inside of Gaza?
Well, it's unclear why the mention of 150 Palestinian prisoners, as you say, according to Hamas, women and children, that was also confirmed by a senior Israeli source to us earlier in the day, why that was omitted from this statement. But typically in these hostage situations, what happens is that a list of the prisoners to be released will be published so that the Israeli public can see the details of the agreement, the specifics, because the specifics matter. In the eyes of the Israeli government, many of these prisoners committed acts of terror. Now, according to a senior Israeli official, that the women and children, the Palestinians that will be released as a part of this deal, played supporting roles in terrorism. They aren't the ones executing necessarily the terror attacks, which could make this easier in some ways from a legal standpoint in terms of that challenge. If the victims of those attacks want to come forward and challenge the agreement, this could make this process that much smoother because, again, every hour of every day is an agonizing and painful experience for so many of these families, Allison.
You know, Erin, you mentioned this earlier in your reporting, but there is a precedent of Gilad Shalit, the Israeli soldier who was abducted and then released in a prisoner exchange in 2011, where over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners were exchanged to get him out. When you speak to the families of the people who are currently being held hostage inside of Gaza, are they disappointed that this wasn't an all-for-all deal?
I'm sorry, an all-for-all deal?
In terms of the 3,000 plus Palestinian prisoners currently in Israeli jails, at the beginning of the war, there was talk about releasing all of them. Hamas had asked for that and then saying they would release all of the hostages they had. I mean, did people want to see that?
Well, undoubtedly, people here in Israel want to see all 239 hostages released safe and sound back in Israel. And as I mentioned, there was a tremendous amount of political pressure, moral pressure growing on this government to secure that kind of release. Over the weekend, there was a 5-day march that started here in Tel Aviv and ended in Jerusalem. You saw the opposition leader, Benny Gantz, a member of the Israeli war cabinet, say that they have decades to fight Hamas, but they do not have decades to save these hostages. And the goal of the Israeli government from the beginning has been to secure as many as possible.
Erin, McLaughlin, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.